Hey everyone, how's it going? Shuffle's back here with another video, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a bit of a character review. I'm going to show you guys my Alencia. I think this Alencia is probably the best Alencia I've ever seen. I haven't seen anything really even close yet. Um, so I figured we would show her off in chat, mainly because I got asked somewhere between 100 and 200 times during stream tonight how my Alencia was built and why she was built that way. So I'm going to record this video so you guys kind of have a guide. I know everybody's pulling her today with the banner. It's been a long wait for people who didn't get lucky enough to summon her the first time around. So a lot of people really hyped to build her. Fair warning, people are trying to say, I don't know who, I do know who, but there are some people out there that are trying to say she's fallen off recently, and honestly, it's the complete opposite. If anything, she gets gotten stronger since the changes to RTA. She's even better than she's ever been. I will go over, well, here, let's switch over to her gear and we'll try and talk our way through that. Alright, so here's my Alencia. Speed and immunity on Draco Plate. You can see she is friendship leveled and she is plus 15. The only downfall is she's only single S, but she's on team imprint, not self imprint. So if yours isn't imprinted, that's fine. It will not affect these stats. So here's the stats I have on my Alencia. Um, for starters, before we get into the stats, the reason I say she hasn't fallen off and she's actually gotten stronger is because the meta's gotten squishier. So before, when it was a purely a tank meta, it really limited her damage because it was all high defense, high res units. She couldn't strip, she couldn't defense break. She couldn't really do too much damage if she didn't get that high res defense break on the unit with her S1. And her S3, even though it was doing decent damage, it wasn't enough to really put a dent in them, and then they would just heal it back up again. Now, with a squishier meta, she's just destroying teams. I literally today one shot an SSB with her S1 into S2. I one shot an FCC from almost full health with her S1 into S2. I counter cleave deleted an entire team with her S3. You name it, she can do it. So, and that's with these stats as well. This is on a 230 speed build with Draco Plate. Obviously on speed boots. So speed boots, crit rate, crit damage, HP, and effectiveness. This is the worst piece of gear that she currently has on her. HP ring, speed, crit rate, crit damage with flat defense. That flat defense could be either caches, quit. I could either be flat HP or effectiveness to make that a little bit better, but that's really the only stat she's missing. Then beautiful crit damage neck for her with high HP, 20 crit rate, and speed. Again, this could have an effectiveness substat or defense substat, but realistically, getting the 20 crit rate and the 21 HP on this is insane, and probably never going to find any better. Moving on, we have a Hell Raid chest piece with 24 crit and 24 HP with speed and defense. This is, of course, free to play from Hell Raid, so you can grab this. You just have to hope it rolls the way you need it to. Then here we have basically the equivalent of a Hell Raid piece. This one was just a little faster than the other pieces I had, and instead of attack on it, it had effectiveness on it. The Hell Raid pieces are speed HP, crit rate, and attack instead of speed HP, crit rate, and effectiveness here. So I took the effectiveness because it at least helps her a little bit. And then finally, the piece, part of the reason why she's so fast, this piece is insane for her as well. 19 speed with huge crit damage, plus crit rate and HP subs, bring her up to 100 crit rate, 277 crit damage, 21k HP, and of course 230 speed. So the two main questions I get about her are one, is her defense high enough? And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're running her on a speed build, don't worry too much about her defense. Reason being, she does have an AoE defense buff, which increases defense by 60%. This alone will bring her defense stat really, really high, and because she's 230 speed, she's going first, so you don't have to worry about her dying. And she's on immunity, so even if the enemy doesn't go first and they hit her, she's not going to die anyway. You're not going to defense break her and then kill her anyway. She's tanky enough at 21k HP. It's not going to happen. And then beyond that, because of Mind's Eye and the intimidation factor that if they land Mind's Eye, she can defense break and then nuke. They probably aren't going to hit her first anyway, unless it's an AoE, like an ML Crow or something like that might hit her because he's putting up immunity anyway, and they just want the damage. Ideally, she goes first though, so she can strip first, and then when they take their turn, they hit her, proccing the Mind's Eye, so you can just S1. Uh, the hardest thing with her is if on S1 the enemy goes first, attacks you, you proc Mind's Eye, and then you have to decide whether you want to skill 1 or skill 3, because both can be good options. But for that reason, I wouldn't worry about having her high defense. She just doesn't need it. Get her up to the speed tuning you need, number one, at least 20k HP and 100% crit rate. Don't worry about attack. I used to have, at one point, I had, I think, just shy of 2000 attack, and I had like 19 something HP. And I swapped the two, so I added like 2000 HP and traded 200 attack, and her damage actually went up. So her scaling is much heavier on the HP side than it is on the attack side. So if you can get rid of attack substats and give her HP substats, in exchange, it's actually going to increase the damage and she'll be tankier. So that's going to be really important. But that kind of is it for as to why defense doesn't really matter on her. Is because most of the time she's going to have defense buff. Also with this passive, um, when she uses Trample, it decreases the cooldown of Genesis, which is her skill 3. So every time she's able to use her extra attack, she's reducing her skill 3 cooldown anyway. So it's entirely possible that she will not have a cooldown on her skill 3. It's already 4-turn cooldown. If she gets Mind's Eye both times, then she can just put defense buff right back up again. And realistically, depending on the team, you might not even need it twice because you probably have already won the fight. Up the next question that I get asked all the time is the effectiveness. I get so many people used to, not anymore, but when she first came out, people were like, "Oh, I don't like your Alencia because she doesn't have any effectiveness. She's not going to strip." Realistically, you're not bringing her into strip. Like, yes, she has a strip, but she's not Broman. She's not Bassar. She's not Blue Tenebria. Her purpose isn't as a stripper. If you needed a stripper to reliably strip everybody for a control comp, you would bring an actual stripper. Her purpose is a bruiser. You're not bringing her into Ruel and saying, "Hey, I really need you to land this strip on Ruel so I can win." If that's what you're trying to do, you're using her wrong. You're trying to bring her in and strip Arby immunity, maybe. You're trying to strip Spectre. You're trying to strip any damage dealer, really. Or potentially even low res targets, trying to get that strip off so that whatever you're doing after Alencia can land. So don't worry about her effectiveness, honestly. Like, if this piece has 9 of my 15 effectiveness, if you could get defense on this piece, I would gladly trade the effectiveness for some defense. Or if I had a piece with that had like flat HP on it instead of effectiveness, I would use that as well. I honestly don't care about this effectiveness at all. The way the effectiveness res calculation works, against units with little to no res, you're going to be maximum chance to land anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Um, and beyond that, if you have a Mind's Eye proc, that boosts her effectiveness by an additional 30% anyway. So most of the units you're trying to strip are gonna have less than 45 res anyway, which means you already have maximum chance to land even with 0 effectiveness. So don't worry at all about her effectiveness. It doesn't matter. There were a lot of Legend players when she first came out building her with effectiveness, and every single one of them has switched her from an effectiveness build over to a bruiser build. I haven't seen anything but bruiser Alencias since like season 1. So if you're trying to build up your Alencia, don't worry about defense, don't worry about effectiveness. If anyone tells you that that's the purpose for them, they don't know what they're talking about. And trust me, if you build her with the aim to get stats in this direction, you will love how she performs for you. She is top, top, top tier. She literally does it all for my team. Personally, I run her with Fire Cecilia. If you've ever seen any of my other videos, I usually run Alencia Cecilia first 2 picks. So Alencia goes first, she AoE strips, Cecilia goes second, AoE provokes, and if they both land, it's pretty much GG at that point. And they're both very, very fast. Now, I could scale her down a little bit and have her do more damage, but having her go first and put up that defense buff is just as like helpful to your team as doing 50% of the enemy's HP, or 50% damage. So very strong all around. That combined with the fact that she can one-shot almost anybody, keep your team alive. They're scared to attack her. Plus, she can run Draco Plate, which, in terms of the defense, is another boost to her not dying. Decreasing incoming damage means you don't have to run her with an adamant holder. You can run her with an Aureus holder. You don't need to run two tanks. So you could run, for example, Aureus and Alencia on Draco Plate, and you have full damage reduction on your Alencia. That plus the defense buff is going to make her really, really hard to kill. Finally, if you want some numbers really quick on what kind of damage she can actually do, we brought her into Abyss 70, and her S3 with attack buff. So we did it with attack buff and without attack buff. Her S3 did 7,247 damage with attack buff. She did 6,529 without attack buff. So if you're going into a cleave, that's enough to basically anyone. If you have a full team that's like 9-10k because they're squishy trying to cleave you, and you bring her in, she can basically take the whole team and bring them down to like 10 to 20% HP, and all you have to do is knock them over at that point. Depending on how squishy they are and how much damage reduction there is, sometimes you can even kill people. I've one-shot certain teams before if they're squishy enough. Also, the S1 with attack buff, just the S1 without the S2 proc, with attack buff did 5,547. The without attack buff was 4,800, so pretty much the same thing. But the big damage comes from her extra turn proc, the S2 proc, trampled. So she goes S1, lands defense break, and then does trample into it. The trample alone will do with attack buff 13,800, without attack buff 12,200. So combined, her S1 into S2 is doing, what does that work out to be? 19,300 with attack buff, or 17,000 without attack buff. So I run mine a lot with DN, for not for her, but for the rest of my team. So when I have the attack buff, I'm getting almost 20,000 damage. And even if the DN gets banned, I can still get 17k damage with the S1. That's going to kill most units with her S1. Now, granted, these stats are very difficult to get. You're probably, if you're just building her for the first time, you're going to realize that getting these stats is going to take a while. This is probably one of my best geared units, and just because I use her all the time in RTA, but just try and aim in this direction. Even if you land at like 200 speed with 20k HP, 250 crit damage, that's still really strong Alencia, and you'll still really like her. You don't have to have her at this level in order to appreciate how much she can do for you and for your team. So try her out. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comment section below. I hope this video helped you guys out in terms of how you want to build your Alencia and why you want to build her in certain ways. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We have been getting quite a few subscribers recently. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support, guys, and we'll see you all next time. Bye for now.